Okay. Amy, how you been?
It was good. There was another meeting going on the DRI, so
The DOI?
that might have been.
The $10 million, Bob.
Oh,
$10 million for the downtown.
that's whatever you guys don't need. I have lots of use for it. I'm happy to help you.
I
get-
have first dibs,
Yeah.
and I'm on the
Also, it-
committee,
it
so
goes-
shush up.
Marlene and I will take care of anything you don't use.
Yeah, it starts with the, sorry guys, it starts with the village board members, they say, so
Oh, okay.
it goes to the boards.
No. You're a paid board member. You're not allowed to even
Damn it,
ask.
that's right, sorry, I forgot.
Volunteers first.
Okay, that's fair.
Hi, Jamie.
We can
Hi,
use
how
it.
you doing?
Joe and Jamie a raise.
Okay. I know Jamie cut her hair again.
Yeah, she looks good.
Thanks.
We are a little light on you're right, we are a little light on.
We're a little late on that, yeah.
I think Mark said he was not going to be able to make it, right?
I believe so.
So we need Kyle.
We need Kyle.
We need Kyle.
And I don't recall sending that new alternate any new materials. When did he get appointed?
He got
Uh,
appointed at the last board meeting, but I saw Jaime had sent him some stuff and said that he was invited to this meeting, so.
I did, yeah, I sent him a link to the meeting.
Cool.
I don't know if he got added to the panelist side, but he should be able to come in. I mean, he got the link to the actual, to attend the meeting, to the agenda, to the details. And he has my phone number, so
Hey, Jaime, can I ask a stupid question? Sure, I can. The link you sent.
Yes, sir.
If I copy that link and put it in my calendar for all the upcoming meetings, it's the same link every time, right?
It is, yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks, Jim. Oh, so that's perfect. So I won't have to call you and say I didn't get the link yet.
It should, there is a space on it that says add to your calendar. Just hit that. And
Yeah.
it'll automatically add to your calendar. And then all you have to do is go to your calendar and hit it from there.
It'll put it in for all the dates or just the dates?
Yes, it'll put it in for all the dates.
Well, how convenient is that? That's brilliant.
I know, that's the easy part of,
Technology.
the calendar setup. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good idea.
I'm gonna start calling board members now, so I'm gonna go on mute.
Bye-bye.
All right. Do you want to stop the recording?
Good idea.
I can pause it, yeah. All right, we're recording again now.
Oh, good.
George, if you could, yeah, just keep yourself muted until you're ready to talk, I guess. You're on two spots, so I may have to keep one of them muted just to be careful. So with that, Marlene, you're ready to go.
Hey, good evening and welcome to the Village of Ossining, March 8th, 2022, regular zoning board meeting, zoning board of appeals regular meeting. Again, we are doing our meeting via conference using the Zoom platform, and there is no participation in person tonight. Rather, the public can watch the live meeting online through Zoom. Meeting of tonight. Oh, geez. Sorry. Notice of tonight's meeting was published as required and on the village website. The web notice included instructions for members of the public to access the meeting and participate in any public hearings. Comments will only be taken during the public hearing portions of the meeting as usual. In order to participate, please do the following. Members of the public attending online via the Zoom app may use the raise hand feature at the appropriate time if you would like to make a comment. The feature is located at the bottom of the screen. Those attending via telephone can press the *9. The meeting host will see that your hand is raised or that you have pressed *9 and will unmute those waiting one at a time so that you can speak. Lastly, comments can be emailed during the meeting to Jaime Martinez, that's J. Martinez, MARTINEZ, at villageofossining.org. Any written comments will be read into the record. Please note that tonight's meeting is being recorded and a video and transcript will be provided at a later date. There are a few ground rules in order to keep the meeting orderly and ensure that we get a clear recording, so please follow these rules. When you're given access to speak, please state your name and address. If you are speaking during the public hearing, please limit your comments to the matter which is the subject of the hearing. If any speaker is inappropriate, they will be immediately cut off and access removed. To the board members, please mute yourselves when you are not speaking. Also to the board members, I will call on you one at a time to speak to avoid everyone speaking at once. If you wish to speak at any time, when I am not calling on you, you may also use the raise hand feature or literally raise your hand so I can see you and call on you. Lastly, we will use roll call voting for purposes of all board motions. This is to ensure that the record is clear. I want to again thank everyone for their patience and as we continue to negotiate doing things via Zoom. As we go through for the benefit of the record, we will do roll call. I'm going to ask if Amanda would do the roll call to make it cleaner.
Sure. Marlene Cheatham,
Here,
George Bailing. Or you're still muted. Hopefully you can unmute yourself. Should be on the screen,
At the bottom.
bottom left.
Okay. Did that work?
yes.
Okay,
So
good.
George, you're here. And now can you mute yourself again? It's just because there's feedback, George. Perfect, okay. Kyle Beckley,
Here.
Bob Durayo.
Here.
There's no Mark Gorechny, no alternate Olga Montez, no new alternate Michael Spall. And we have Planning Director Jaime Martinez. We have Planning Board Secretary and ZBA Secretary Jamie Kane. And we have Building Inspector Joseph Agustinelli and our Board of Trustee Liaison Manuel Casada.
Okay, thank you. And let's move forward. We're doing approval of the minutes first or last?
We moved it to first.
Okay. So if everyone has had a chance to read the approval of the minutes from the February 8th, 2022 meeting, may I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved, Kyle.
Second, Bob.
May I have a second?
Bob. Second.
Bob, okay.
You guys were
Roll
both
call
at that
vote.
meeting?
Yes, everyone was at that meeting.
Just checking. All right, the roll call is Marlene Cheatham.
Aye.
Was George there too? I don't think George was.
No, George was not there.
All right, so George is not gonna vote. Kyle Beckley
Aye.
and Bob Durayo.
Aye.
All right, 3-0 in favor,
And one abstain.
right, and 1 abstain.
Motion carried. Okay, new business of the board, ZBA 26/2021, 46 Eastern Avenue. Caesar Yanqui? And I hope I said that right.
I'm guessing it's Yankee.
Yankee? Okay.
I'm going to bring
Is
over,
there any,
we have JB Hernandez here, and I'm going to see if anybody is there with him. I don't think anybody's with him, but if there's anybody else.
okay, and Jaime, as before, if you can just update the board on what's going on with this project, that would be great.
Yeah, so this is a property that was previously being used, I think, as a 3-family. It was determined that that 3-family was not legal, and so they came back and wanted to change the property from a legal one family to a legal two family. It's in a T district where two family is a permitted use, but they do not have the parking on site to make it work. They did have some space for cars in the back of the property, but they were only going to be able to access that if they got an easement from their neighbor. They attempted to secure that easement but were unable to, and so they're here today requesting a variance, a couple of variances, one for parking in the front yard, and then one for parking spaces to be the parking requirements for 4 spaces to be varied down to 1 space. So referral letters here, and so it has that detail. And I think that we had discussed internally about the variance for the size of the 1 off-street parking space. Joe, I don't know if you want to clear up whether that's still required. At this point, I thought that because it was existing, said it wasn't, but I may be incorrect about that. Bless you.
I mean, they created a parking space, I guess, in the front they were using, but it wasn't, I don't know when that space was created in there. It's not the size, the minimum size, the way the code calls for the space. And normally you wouldn't approve just parking in the front yard. So we put those variances on there, especially since the fact that they're trying to go from a 1 family now legally to a 2, where they would need to have 4 spaces provided and only 1. So, I mean, if the board is amenable to a variance to allow only the 1 space in the front, it'd probably be wise at this point to, also consider the fact that the space is minimum and it's in the front yard. So I added those as variances in them. But the main issue with this right now is the fact that they don't have the proper spaces that they need to provide.
Question.
Yeah, if I recall correctly now, I'm starting to remember again a little more. I think that the hope was to get some clarity from the applicant about how the space is being used and how they want to.
And the other thing was, like Jaime had said previously, that they were getting parking in the back. So the assumption was that they were not parking in that front, they were using the parking in the back. But since they couldn't secure, the easement with the neighbor, they basically eliminated the parking that was in the back. So I believe when they were able to access the back, they had enough parking. And now that they can't use those spaces in the back, they're proposing now to have a car parked in the front area of that driveway.
So technically, the house, whether it was a 1 family or a 2 family, has no parking, except for that 1 parking space in the front.
That's correct.
They're parking on the street?
Yes, on one side, on the
Yeah.
side where, because the other side would be the church.
Mhm.
So in front of the house, yes, and I think the side street Churchill, I believe, has parking as well.
Currently, it had been used as a multifamily home, right? And they had no parking at that time, correct?
Yes,
Yes,
Mr. Yankee purchased the house in 2003. He had been using it as a 2-family home. There, without the benefit of having a building permit for a 2-family home. That's how we got involved to assist and remedy these issues. And first we went to planning to see the conditional use. And since the new law in July, we no longer need that. So the only remaining items were the parking issues. I don't have it here, but if you look at a picture, so for the county maps back to 2013, 2007. There was parking in the rear of the property that they were being utilized, but there is not enough room on the side. And then a fence was installed along the property line by the neighbor. So it became unusable parking. But that has been at least for 6-7 years that they have been utilizing the parking on the street. They haven't had an issue with parking. So basically, most of the changes we making to the house in order to make it into a legal two-family is all code related. So it complies with the building code and the assigning code. Besides that, there is, there's no issues currently with parking. And like Jaime mentioned as well, they did try to procure a piece of property from the neighbor, first through just out, buying the property from them, then to trying to get a land use agreement, and it did not work out with the neighbor.
JB,
Thank
let
you,
me know if
JB.
there's any pages you want me to show here, if there's any, particular.
Well, if you want to go through, it only showed the work that we done on the house, and how the house is split. So it's divided in,
Yeah.
up and bottom.
I will mention here to the public, because just for the public who's listening, the property is being subdivided into a two-family home. When you're doing a subdivision like this in this district, it's required that each one of those units meet the minimum 800 square feet of livable space, and they do, in both instances, meet the square footage requirements. So we checked that because we were concerned about maybe they wouldn't meet it, but they both met it pretty easily.
So, JB, can I just make sure I clarified something? Originally, correct me if I'm wrong, the parking issue, they were, before the fence went up and they were using the parking, or using the driveway to get to the back, they did provide all their parking in the back, and now that that's been changed, that's changed because the neighbor put up a fence. The parking space in the front is what's being proposed. That wasn't where he used to usually park, correct?
Right. What we propose in the parking spot right now is where it was actually the access to the rear of the property.
Right, and that's the reason why I added that too as a variance request, because they were not utilizing the space you see now as parking previously. That's being proposed now with the fence that's gone up.
So the variance. So the variance for the parking in the front yard is both a variance for the front yard and the size of the front yard space is too short.
Yes.
And if I'm correct also, JB, you're supposed to provide a 2-foot setback off the side, and I believe the idea was to park in the front and maintain the 2-foot setback from the side yard, right?
Yes,
So you don't need a variance for the setback is what I'm saying. It's the front yard, it's the size of the space, and the number of spaces.
yes.
Thank you.
So he needs the variance for 3 off-street parking spaces, 1 front yard space,
And the dimensions of the space, because it's supposed to be
and the
not.
dimensions. Okay, all right.
There's no room to make 1 legal parking space?
No,
The legal.
Jaime,
Okay, I'm sorry.
if
Go ahead.
Jaime could, I'm sorry, say that again.
No, I was saying, go ahead. I apologize.
No, I was gonna say if you actually saw
I'm gonna try to pull up
The
the,
street view, can you pull up the street view?
that's what I'm doing right now, exactly.
Okay. Because the way the house and I was looking at the sign, it looks like you can, but it really can't because the fence actually blocks how you can pull into that space. And
So here's
then
the,
there are stairs.
yeah, that's the fence that was installed.
Right.
And this is, so the legal, in order to have this be a legally conforming space, it would have to be 9 feet by, how many feet is it, 12 feet, Joe?
Mhm.
18.
9 by 18,
15.
I'm sorry,
Not 9 by 18 is.
9 by 18. And so the size of it is 9 by 17 and some change. So it's not compliant, it's actually, I'm sorry, it's closer to 10.3 and some change. Not including the part of the sort of paved area next to it that's on the neighbor's yard technically. So it's a little short.
It's just a
One
little
thing-
short.
Yeah, one thing to point out though is that it is short to the property line and not actually short to the sidewalk. So it's not
Right.
like they'd be parking on the sidewalk.
Well, that's the important part because we don't want you parking in the right of way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would note that I've heard that a lot of times there's, you know, construction vehicles being parked in the front yard of this property. I've heard that issue exists. So you may want to consider, if you're going to allow for vehicles to be parked in the front yard, you may want to consider setting conditions that only non-commercial vehicles are parked in that front yard, if you do consider allowing it.
Why are there construction vehicles regularly parking in the front yard? What's that about?
Well, I guess my question would be not so much that there's a parking construction vehicle in the yard, but I don't think we allow construction vehicles on the street. Is that true, Joe? I don't think you can park a construction vehicle on the street.
You can park on the property, you're allowed one commercial vehicle like the size of a van. It can't be more than 20 feet in length and size. That's to allow, like, if the person who lives there is on call, like a plumber that's on call all night, or a person of, they're allowed to bring one vehicle and have it on site. Other than, if the vehicle's more than 20 feet in length, which would be more than a pickup truck or a van, then that wouldn't be permitted.
What is
Right.
what's the commercial vehicle that parks there regularly? Does it fit properly?
That I wasn't aware of. I don't know if that may have been somebody who called in a complaint, or Jaime was made aware of it from a neighbor. I'm not sure.
It was an informal complaint about commercial vehicles being parked in front of the property. So I don't want to I don't want to overemphasize the comment. More just it's a point to consider. The types of vehicles
Hear from Mr. Hernandez regarding this. Is this a regular occurrence? What is the story about the commercial vehicle? Mr. Hernandez?
And this is the first time I heard of a commercial vehicle being parked there. So my client is not here with me, so, but if the board, makes the resolution that there shouldn't be a commercial vehicle there, I think that's fair.
Well, I
think,
don't think there's any need for that because the code already delineates when and.
Right.
Right. So I think and again, that's not in our purview for this tonight. And I think we can say that they have to follow the parking regulations for the area. And I think that that's enough.
We need to go,
If
we need to go through the,
we need to open up for a public hearing.
Well, one thing I do just want to clarify before you move on. JB, on that width, you're showing from the property line to the retaining wall, the width of that space being 10.3. But if you're planning on cutting out the 2 feet of that blacktop to maintain a 2-foot setback, then are we saying that the width of that space will be 8'3"?
Yes.
So when you're looking at the size of the space, it's not only the length, you would need it for the fact that it's a little bit short in width as well.
So
So exactly what is the variance for the dimensions of that space?
It's gonna be,
0.7.
yeah, it's gonna be like 0.7. They're gonna be about 9 inches short in width and about a foot short in length.
9 inches short in length,
No, in the width.
With,
in the width, okay. And how many in the,
They're proposing, I think, on the right side that that's gonna be only I think it says 17 feet. Is that correct?
17.1, so what's that?
17.1, so they need 18, it's 0.9.
0.9, okay,
righty.
okay.
Do we need a motion for a public hearing?
Is there any other questions from the board? Then I'd like to entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved.
And may I get a second?
Second, Kyle.
If there is no objection to open the public hearing by unanimous consent, then the public hearing is open. No objections, we are opening the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public?
Nope.
Nope, okay. May I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Bob.
Second,
May I
Kyle.
get it? Okay, all those in favor? Or by unanimous consent, we will close the public hearing? Okay, no objection, public hearing is closed. All right, this would be a, okay, this is, okay. So I guess we would go through the test, the variance test, and walk through and discuss, how we would go through this.
Sure. So we've always considered parking variances, even the parking in the front yard and area variance.
Area variance, yeah.
So do you just want to consider the factors with respect to all three variances?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first factor is whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variances.
Doesn't seem to be. It's just a car and a driveway.
And if I heard what both Jaime and Mr. Hernandez both said, this went from a 3-family down to a legal 2-family, so eliminating some of the parking spaces moving forward. And through no fault of their own, they are no longer able to park in the back of the property, which was something that was granted before, which has, subsequently been removed from the use of this property.
Is that all of our comments?
Any other comments? Yep, that's it.
Let's see. The benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than area variances.
The applicant attempted to pursue an easement with the neighbor and that was unsuccessful. And looking at the property dimensions, I don't think there is another option.
I
So
agree
no.
with Kyle.
Good. All right. The requested area variances are substantial.
No,
I'm gonna say yes, because we're only granting the 1 space correct, but 4 required.
Mhm.
There are I think there are two sides to this. The area variance for the front, and I'm going to say front yard parking, is not substantial. It's 9 inches and 0.9.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's correct.
So in that case, it's a small area. And then the 3 additional parking spaces would be a little bit more substantial, but they are off street And as determined, there seems to be off-street parking that would accommodate the number of parking vehicles.
There seems to be off-street or on-street?
On street.
I mean, on-street.
Okay.
I meant on-street.
So substantial, but for the 3 cars, but doesn't really impact the decision. And not substantial for the side yard setback.
Again, I agree with Kyle.
Okay. And then the alleged difficulty was self-created. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I missed one. The proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
I think this is attempting to remedy that and bring it in line with proper code, including reducing the need for 6 spaces because it'll go from 3-family to 2-family. So I say no.
Again, I agree with Kyle.
And I would agree to that. I think that, again, this applicant has tried to remedy that, to put the parking on the property, and that did not, that was to, it did not work out in his favor. So,
And the last one now is the alleged difficulty was self-created.
No, I think it's circumstances beyond his control, in fact, that they lost the ability to park in the back. Folks put a fence up in the front. I think he is doing the best he can to mitigate problems that were not his creation.
I agree with Bob. Pending Marlene's head shake.
I kind of waffle back and forth on this one, but it is a factor that, it was a 1-family house, or was zoned as a 1-family house that was then a non-conforming 3-family house that is now a 2-family house that, I think that there still would have been a parking issue even as a 1-family house. And I think he did try to remedy it to the best of his ability, so.
Okay, that's all of the factors.
Okay. So with all of the factors before the board, it seems that the board would be in favor of granting this application, both with the front yard setbacks.
Well,
Just make sure.
It's just the fact that they require you're giving the variances for 3 off-street parking spaces where they require 4, the
Right.
1 parking space in the front yard, and the dimensions of the front yard parking space, which we said was 9 inches short in width and 1 foot short on the length. That's what I wrote.
Yeah.
Was that wrong?
0.9 in
0.9.
the, yes.
Okay.
So if,
So
all 3 of those would be granted.
motion,
And that to be sure that all parking off street would follow the designated parking rules in the area where this house is located,
yes.
in the zoning where this house is located.
Yeah.
So
So if that would be the case, then roll call vote.
in a
Oh,
second.
wait. Yes.
Was
Do I have
that
a
the
motion?
motion?
No, that was not
think
the
Bob
motion. Can I get a
moved.
motion?
I made the motion. I need a second.
Second, Kyle.
Okay. So Marlene Sheeta,
Aye.
George Bailing. Can you unmute yourself on the lower left-hand corner?
Or shake your head up and down.
No, it needs to be on record.
Oh,
George, are you frozen?
He's frozen, yeah.
He is frozen.
oh my goodness.
Well, you still have a bare quorum.
Mhm.
Right.
That just so that JB, you're fully aware, if you still want to go forward with this vote. And so wait, we just did Marlene, and then Kyle Beckley
Aye.
and Bob Durayo.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, motion carried. Mr. Hernandez, have a good evening. Are you
Thank
on
you.
for anything else tonight?
No, I don't think so.
Well, then,
Have a
Okay,
good
have a
evening.
good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care, JV. Yeah, so all of, I don't know if you were about to say this, Marlene, but for the rest of the applicants who are here, if we get down to 3 board members, you will need a unanimous vote in favor of your application for it to be approved,
Right.
which is quite possible given technical difficulties.
I see.
I mean, unless Bob has, George has learned how to stay really still.
No, I do believe he is frozen.
Really still.
Okay, we are up to ZBA 04-2022, 83 State Street. Louis Zuzingo.
That sounds right.
Okay.
Okay, so let's pull up the application. So we have a Rob Roselli here. I'm gonna bring him over. I'm assuming that's a him. Yeah. And okay, all right. So this application is for individual who has a backyard. They got some approvals to make some changes. I think they started working on a permit to get some drainage for additional drainage for their backyard. They were putting in a dry well to tie into a gutter. And then afterwards, they got the backyard paved, and for whatever reason, they decided to pave the entire backyard. So they're here for coverage issues to talk about for their backyard. So that is.
So what was a surface that allowed for drainage? So the impervious surface is now all paved?
Mm-hmm. Including the driveway all the way to the edge of the property, and the backyard basically to the edge of the property as well.
so the whole backyard is paved now.
Correct.
What are they using it for? Is it parking? There's a basketball court? Or?
It's a 2-family home. I think it's primarily parking.
Okay.
So, but we have Mr. Roselli here. So.
Good evening.
Joe denied this, I see.
That's just a formal, I mean, it's a referral letter for an
It's a
application.
referral out.
Considered a denial letter,
Oh,
referral
okay.
letter. It's the same thing.
It's already paved, Bob, but Mr. Roselli, thank you for coming. We would love to hear from you.
You're welcome. So basically, yeah, as you mentioned, the entire backyard is paved. It's being used for parking. So there's room for 4 parking spaces there, all legal sized. And there is a drain, so drainage isn't not an issue. I asked the owner. It's been in place for a few years and there hasn't been any drainage issues, so I don't anticipate that being a problem. It gives relief to the on-street parking. I mean, the on-street parking there is very tough. I mean, alternate side and this sort of thing, and moving for the snow plows. So parking's at a premium in that neighborhood. So by having these 4 spaces, it keeps the occupants of this particular house off the street and onto the yard. So that's definitely a benefit. That's about it. I mean, that's the long and the short of it. I mean, it's, as you can see, it's pretty self-explanatory project as far as that goes.
So was there any thought to doing this with gravel instead of asphalt, which would have like not had this issue?
Yeah, That I'm not sure of. I didn't ask the owner that specific question. But with gravel, I mean, you start to run into issues with plowing and digging up the gravel and that sort of thing. So there are certain advantages to having it be paved.
Can I ask why he didn't ask before he did this? Like, a call to the building department prior to paving it would not have been amiss, right?
I wasn't there when the conversation was had as to the paving and, why permission wasn't asked. So I don't know the answer to that question. He maybe could have just been plain ignorance, like he didn't know any better.
Okay. Fair enough. If we deny this, does that mean he's got to rip all that concrete out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Basically, yes. Kyle, I saw you unmute. I'm sorry, Bob.
Yes, thanks, Marlene. I was actually just looking at Google Maps to see what it looked like before, because they kind of have historical viewing. And it didn't look like.
Would you like to share your screen, Kyle?
Oh, let me
enable sharing, and then I will.
Oh, George is back.
Yes.
I'll try not to get too fancy.
Go right ahead.
So, is this 89 State Street or is it the skinny one?
It's 83 State Street.
It's 83 State Street.
Oh, I don't know why I typed in 89. So there we go. There's 83. Oh yeah, that's much smaller.
It's small.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we do have older surveys. So we know that in fact there was not a fully paved yard only a few years ago. This is a new thing. So we have the older survey and the newer surveys. So I think that, I don't know, Joe, was it like 2007 or something, or 2011 when this when we have a survey on file that it was clearly not built that way, and the owner has come in and acknowledged that he paved it because of the drainage project.
Okay, I'll let him know.
So the drainage project took place when?
Joe, do you know?
Yeah, he said that he did it a while ago. He's owned the home for a long time, and he said that he did the drainage. I believe it may have been in
Like 2014 or 2015?
12, something like that.
Yeah. They had an open permit, and so the permit, they were trying to close out the permits. I think Joe, was this one of those instances where they were contacted?
Yeah, no, that's correct. He had taken they had given a permit back for repaving of the driveway, but it was only the driveway along the side of the house that we were supposed to pave. And when he got a notice saying, you have this permit open for a long period of time, you need to get it closed out, and we sent an inspector went out and did the inspection, and that's when it was observed that the entire yard was paved. And they informed the homeowners that they went way over the impervious surface coverage, and that wasn't what was granted on the permit to pave your driveway along the side of the house. That didn't mean that you were paving the entire yard.
Marlene, may I share my screen again?
Yes. Yes, go ahead, Kyle.
Just to look at the photos real quick. So when I was looking at the photos, it looks just like a rocky paved surface. I guess this was probably the before it was paved.
That's a 93 State Street.
That's 93.
That's a different address. We have several State Street projects today, and
It's 83.
we have 3 State Street projects.
Yeah.
83 State Street. Yeah.
83.
Oh, did I go to 89, 91? No, 83. I thought we
Yes.
were on 83. Oh, 83.
We are on
83.
83. We're on 83.
But you showed 93.
Great. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
It's confusing. It was confusing us when we were going through the agenda.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board? All right, I guess there are two things, the impervious surface in the rear yard, which is supposed to be, it should be, requirement is 40, and the existing condition is 96.7, am I correct, Joe?
Yes,
Which means that the variance is 56.7.
that's correct.
And there's also a side yard variance, the driveway, and I don't know if it's in the back or on the side, is a 4-foot
Yeah.
variance.
Yeah, just for the record, but I just realized the description that I had on the referral letter, there's an error at the top. It was to create 4 spaces in the rear yard. I think I wrote 2 spaces in the front yard. That's a mistake for record. But the backyard, when they paved all of it, they're right up to the property line. They didn't leave the 2 feet setback that's required in that district.
Okay, so again, in the rear yard.
Yeah, and, you know, I would note that this shows that the entire property, basically from the front to the back, is on a slope. So while he mentioned that they've added this drainage, that drainage catches water that's coming downhill from the back of the property, but doesn't capture any of the flow that's going to the back of the lot and into the neighbor's yard. And so, you know, at a minimum, if the board's going to consider granting this, the applicant really needs to do something about that drainage issue in order to capture all that and put it, either keep it on site or, you know, change, you know, some of the stuff in the backyard to allow for some infiltration of that water, either through porous pavers or
Something.
some other.
That's another option. Like the question was, is as Mr. Rosselli said, that it's a problem with plowing snow and so forth on gravel, but there are other methods. You could do pervious pavers, which would still allow you to plow and so forth, but it would allow for stormwater to penetrate through. So there are other methods. There's pervious asphalt. So that is a consideration that can be done for other products.
I'm also concerned, this shows it seems to me, it shows a complete disregard for the zoning rules and the process, and without any consideration for the neighbors as well. This concerns me, and I'm wondering.
Can I ask you to hold that until we go through the variance test?
Okay,
okay, because I'd like.
Can I just
I'm sorry,
point
Amanda.
out that the variance for driveway number of feet away from the property line is 2 feet in the T zone, and that was changed last year. It's not 4 feet
Yes.
anymore.
Not.
Right, it's 2 feet.
Yeah, but remind me again, what's the setback for the rear yard here? 30 feet?
No, not for the parking. It's all 2 feet to property lines.
Okay.
All right. And sorry, Marlene, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. So, but it's 0 existing conditions. So was it 2 feet total or 2 feet on each side?
I believe they don't maintain the 2 feet on any of the sides. Like both sides have the 2 feet, and I believe also on the rear, the same thing.
So is it 4 feet total or is it 2 feet total?
I would think it would be 2 feet, but it
All
would be
the way
2
around.
feet for all property line, all 2
Yeah.
feet for parking off of the property lines. I don't think you add them up like 2 to 6 total. It's
Okay.
just 2 feet for all
2 feet.
property lines.
Okay. I'd like to I'd like to have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Bob.
Second,
Have a
Kyle.
second. If there's no objection to opening the public hearing, the public hearing will be opened by unanimous consent. Public hearing is now opened. Is there anyone to speak on this property?
No.
No, okay. Since there was no one to speak on this property, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Bob.
Second, Kyle.
Okay, if there's no objection by unanimous consent, the public hearing is now closed. Public hearing is closed. So let's go through the area variance factors. And I think, Bob, you brought up some things that I think fit into the factor discussion. So that's why I kind of was like asking that we hold off on those.
Okay, first is whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variances.
Well, yeah, there's a drainage problem in the back that can adversely affect the property behind. It's ugly.
Okay, I don't know if it's ugly counts, but
While I don't think it'll create an undesirable character, I do agree that it will create, what is the second part, Amanda? Adverse.
A detriment to nearby properties will be created.
Yes, because I do see the drain that Jaime and Joe were talking about, which is up against the back of the deck, but then you still have the entire parking area at the back on a slope that goes right up to the next property with not even an inch of setback. I do think that is an issue without additional drainage measures toward the bottom of the driveway.
I agree with Kyle.
and I just want to add that I think that to the neighbors, that if with putting in a surface that does not have drainage, it really could cause a backup into the neighbors, as the driveway is on a very steep slope. And the way the property is situated, the runoff would go to the neighbors and not, and could collect in the neighbor's yard. So I think that that's an issue that was not addressed when the surface was put in to begin with.
Okay. The benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than these area variances.
Well, yeah. I don't think they needed to go right up to the edge of the property in the back for starters. And they didn't need to use an impervious surface. There are, as Joe said, there are a number of solutions that would have been more appropriate for the space and not cause the drainage problem.
Based on our prior experience with drainage issues, it's probably the one thing that gives me the biggest pause, because 96.7% of the entire property is impervious surface, according to the ZBA application. And I don't think I've ever seen impervious, at least I haven't been here long enough to see that much impervious coverage. And if you look at the surrounding properties, they also tend, except for the one home, have a lot of impervious coverage. For me, it's a bigger neighborhood issue in that area to set a precedent this large. Yeah.
And I'm going to piggyback on what my fellow board members have said. I understand the parking issues on that street. I understand that, parking is at a premium, but to look at a different type of paver that would have allowed for the drainage would have been a better use of the property, and, still allowed for the parking to go forward.
Okay. The requested area variances are substantial.
Oh, yeah. It's the whole
Yes.
yard. What does it count at? 97 something %?
96.7% of the yard, or the entire property, would be impervious versus the max of 40%.
Yes.
So a variance of 56.7% is substantial, whereas the side yard of 2 feet may not be as substantial, but to say over 50% of variance needed is a substantial amount. I can't tell if George is.
George, are you still frozen? Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Today's painting.
very still.
He was
Um,
unfrozen for a moment. That's why I was wondering if he was still frozen.
I saw it too, Marlene.
Okay.
The proposed variances will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
Yes, everything we've just said, the drainage problem, the tremendous amount of impervious surface, setting a precedent for that neighborhood that could be disastrous going forward. Yes,
I would say physically, maybe not, but definitely environmentally, unless physically also includes how the adjoining properties are impacted. Um, while I empathize with, people spending money to do something, if everyone was given a pass for doing something without permission, and then we go back because we are worried about the cost to the homeowner, then nobody would have to use the zoning board or the proper channels to do things, and we would have a bigger issue. So I would say yes.
well said, Kyle.
And I also believe that the initial request was just for the driveway. So to extend the driveway into the entire backyard was something that, needed to be discussed prior to putting asphalt on all of the surfaces. And I get it that, grass or gravel may be difficult, but there are other surfaces that they could have looked at in order to not get into this situation.
Okay, and the last factor is whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
Yeah, they did it.
It is a small property, but the decision to overextend on the granted permit was self-created.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay.
So Marlene, before we vote, I have a question. If we say this is this variance, granting the variance is denied, are we offering an alternative, or what happens next in that case?
I believe the alternative is for them to speak with the building inspector to figure out what they can do to remove the impervious surfaces and put down something that is more acceptable.
Well,
And
let me maybe add a little bit to that here. So the applicant, I think, probably has some idea as to which direction this is probably going to go. They're certainly welcome to ask for the opportunity to reconfigure their plan and come back and propose different variants. Or they could, go with a vote today. They could submit a new plan that looks a little different than this, that has less impact and is more likely to be viewed differently by this board. So those options are available to them prior to you actually taking a vote.
Got it. That was my concern, forcing them to dig it all up versus putting drainage at the bottom where we're worried about water collection.
They will certainly be out of compliance, and they'll be subject to OTRs and going to court if they don't start to deal with it. But if they move quickly to try to come up with an alternative plan that is potentially acceptable, then the planning department, building department's always been very helpful in working with that.
so we can offer the applicant, Mr. Roselli, the opportunity to adjourn this to meet with the.
That's up to you, Marlene. The applicant has obviously heard you go through the factors. They know that the board right now stands at 3 members because Mr. Bailing is not technically present. So,
And I'm not sure Mr. Roselli is present.
I'm here.
Okay,
I'm
you just
listening.
didn't move for a while.
I'm listening.
that was a valid
Okay.
point. So really it's up to you if you want to proceed to a vote or if you want to give him the opportunity to adjourn and potentially make some changes or seek a more favorable board composition at a later meeting.
Question, how long, can we give them a time limit by which they need to come back with a new plan before they start getting fined?
It's the court. I don't know where this stands in court right now, but really I don't think you have any control over the fines
Right.
in this situation or not.
I don't think it's been referred to
No,
court.
actually, if there's a court, the fact that it's in court, it's adjourned right now, waiting probably for a decision by the ZBA to determine if they're gonna get a variance or not.
Mhm.
Right.
But Joe, has this even been
Okay.
referred to court yet? I thought that they were just,
They received,
voluntarily came to try to clear it up.
no, they received an order, they received a violation for it, but, you know, if per se, we wrote it up for court now, and they appear in court, they're going to say that they're waiting on a decision from the zoning board anyway, and that's gonna hold up the case anyway, until a decision's made.
Okay. So I would at this point, I don't believe that George is with us. And I would like to hear from Mr. Roselli or his or the homeowner to see if they could come up with something that would be more acceptable if possible in the future. So if it is okay with the remaining board members, I would entertain a motion to adjourn until the April meeting. And
that-
I would,
Mr. Roselli, is that what you'd like to do?
Mr. Roselli, is that what you'd like to do? Or, I mean, we can vote today. I mean, we've gone through the factors.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the aggregate, I mean, I understand this is an uphill battle and I didn't really expect the positive results. So this was not unexpected, but be that as it may, my question is, so if I'm understanding this correctly, if we put additional drainage in on the back end of the driveway, I mean, you would consider granting the impervious variance?
Well, we would want to have that reviewed first by the village's engineering consultant. So it wouldn't be a one and done type of deal. It would not be an automatic approval by any means. So it'd be a longer process.
But, so in
Yeah.
other words, if you guys vote now and you vote it down, and basically the option is it's gonna have to get ripped up and replaced with some other surface.
Not necessarily. You can resubmit you can work with the building department and resubmit, some other plan.
I guess we'll have to move for an adjournment, and then I'll talk to the building inspector, offline and come up with some solution that's more palatable to the board, and maybe get a more positive response.
I will say the thing is, if your plan is to keep the surface the way it is, and you're gonna talk about putting in an additional drainage plan, we're gonna end up referring that to the consultant to do a calculation on that, so there will probably be a cost to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think either way, yeah, it's a lot of this is sort of in the weeds, technical stuff. So my recommendation to you, sir, is to, for you and the applicant, both to set up a like a meeting with the building inspector, myself, and the other consultants, including as Amanda mentioned, her and the consultant engineer, to help come up with a plan that is more likely to be less impactful than this one obviously has been.
So in that case, I think I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting till next month.
Application.
The application, not the whole meeting. Sorry. We're gonna do the other stuff. I'd like to adjourn this application to April, pending a meeting with all the parties concerned to come up with a solution that addresses the concerns that we've talked about today.
Second, Kyle.
Okay, Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
George Bailing, maybe you're there, because I see your face has changed.
Yeah, he moved for a second and then he went out again.
All right, let's just assume he's not present. Kyle Beckley
Aye.
and Bob Dario.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Roselli, this will be adjourned until next month. So you give, buy you a little bit of time to work on some things and work with the building department and the consultants.
Yeah, I just want to add that the revision deadline for the zoning board I think is about 2 weeks out, a little more than 2 weeks out. So you're going to want to reach out to us tomorrow to set up a time to meet to discuss this project, so we can all be on the same page as to what to expect supplemental materials.
So try and talk to him tomorrow and then probably have to meet next week sometime, something like that.
Well, you can reach out to us and send us an email letting us know that you want to set up the meeting. You can reach out to the applicant whenever. That's up to you.
Okay.
All right,
Who
thank
should I
you. Have
speak
a good
with?
night.
Who should I speak with? The building inspector or you, Jamie, or?
I'm Jaime. Jamie Kane is Jamie, and you can email Jamie. She's the one who you submitted the materials to.
Okay, to set up the meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Good night.
Okay, we are up to ZBA 07-2022 8991 State Street.
Yeah, so 8991 State Street and 93 State Street are here for the same reason. It's a
Okay, so
combined. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So are we adding in ZBA 08-2022 as on this, or we have to do them both separately? I'm asking that question to Amanda. You're muted.
You're muted, Amanda.
I
No.
just said, oops, I'm muted. Hold on, let me look at the agenda. They're listed as two separate items because they're two separate tax lots, right?
Correct.
I think that you need to do the votes separately and all that, but, and I'll write two separate resolutions. But if it's essentially the same supporting materials, then you can go ahead and consider
Right.
them.
Because I believe it's one shared driveway, is that correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
so I'll give the rundown on both of these applications. So essentially, the applicants here came in for side yard variances to allow for the creation of a combined driveway for the two properties. Both properties have driveways that lead into gravel areas, which Kyle showed us a little earlier. Those gravel areas are considered impervious, or are pervious surfaces, so they didn't have any pervious issues. They were granted those variances. And at the time of the granting of those variances, the question was asked is whether or not the slope of the new driveway would exceed 10%, which is the code requirement that the slope cannot exceed 10%. The property, just like the rest of State Street, is in a pretty steep area. They stated that it wouldn't be. Unfortunately, it did not work out that way. And so the slope, which I'm going to share my screen real quickly, varies in a couple of different places. So in one section, it is about 17.43% on this side, to 14.85% here, and 12.63% here. So it is the highest extent. It is 7% more than it should be, which is the variance that's in front of you that's being requested. The work was done. Obviously, they had a permit. They put it in. They followed the rules. So they're now here trying to just legalize this. And again, they did follow the process, I would say here. So they just, unfortunately, there was not much that could be done about the slope.
Right.
So I'll show you a plan. Or a picture, I apologize, of the property. So you can see this is the backyard. That's that gravel backyard that services the two lots. You can see here, that's one side. It's the 8991 State Street side. And
Right.
this is,
Jaime, does the slope create a drainage problem?
well, the slope leads into a gravel pervious area. So I don't believe it doesn't contribute any more than it would have before.
Great.
It's all pervious. So
Okay. Do we need a motion to, I mean, does anybody want to talk about it? I think it's pretty clear what we got to do.
Well, the only reason why, what I can say about the reason why the code has a maximum on the slope is it's more due to not so much, I believe, in drainage, but more so in safety. So like someone's pulling up the back and you have to go up a bigger slope, you're going to have to accelerate more out when you get out towards the sidewalk and street. The same thing would be if the slope was the other way and somebody was coming down a hill towards the sidewalk and street. When you have a steep slope like that, there's always a concern about, you know, the driver and as they approach, you know, the right of way. So in this case, even though it's the other way, it would be, you know, the fact that you have a bigger slope, you obviously have to accelerate more to get up that slope. And then the impact it has, if there's a consideration that that's an issue for somebody walking in the sidewalk there while a car is approaching. That would be more of what the intent is, why there's a control of the amount of slope. But I agree, in this case, it's not a stormwater issue because the water's draining down to the backyard to a pervious surface.
Joe, do you think,
Sorry?
do you think that slope for someone pulling up the driveway to the street, do you think it's too dangerous?
I mean, it does, you know, you're going through a narrow parking where you have two buildings on both sides. So as you approach up in the front, you do have some obstruction of view that you can't see to the right and the left of you immediately until you get to the top of that slope. So that's a consideration, I guess, that you can determine that when you come up that slope and you're driving up there, what's your vision of being able to see, you know, who's walking along that sidewalk, approaching from the right and the left. You know, so those are considerations I would guess the board would have to, I'm not saying whether or not, you know, you approve it or not. It's just something to be discussed among board members, how you feel the safety is when they approach up at that sidewalk.
Is there mirrors? You know, mirrors at the top of that so that you could see?
I don't believe there are any there presently, no.
No, but is there the ability to do that? And would they need some kind of variance to be allowed to mount the mirrors?
So you can set reasonable conditions as a part of the approval of any variance. So if you think that would be something that is going to add to the safety, then you could do that. All right, looks like we have George back.
Yay!
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, George.
Oh,
So
but to
I guess
answer
the
to that
question,
there's nothing in the code that would prevent somebody from installing something such as that.
Is there anything to prevent us from asking them to do that as a condition of the approval?
I don't think so.
All
I don't
right.
think so. So can we, is Mr. Patricia Berrazuta or George Salinas, are they here?
They are, yeah. We have Isaac Beresueta.
Okay,
Bring him in.
thank
And then we
you
have,
for that pronunciation.
Jorge Salinas we have here. And we have Patricia Beresueta as well.
Okay.
So I'm gonna bring them all three in. And in the meantime, I'm going to try to figure out what's going on here and why this happened. Oh, God. Isaac, Mr. Beresueta, do you want to speak? You can just take yourself off mute.
Speak.
Mr. Beresueta? Oh, there you are. Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. I just want to say we have this driveway like more than 5 years already, and we don't have any problems with the view when we go out or something, we don't have the problem.
And which property do you live at?
It's 89-91,
8991.
and my neighbor is in a 93 State Street.
So is this the entryway here or
No,
no? Is it to the
Mm.
left or to the right?
to the right. One more is the next one, the next driveway.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one right here?
That one right there, yes.
That one, yes.
Right here.
Okay.
Okay,
So
Jaime, you're
from what
making
I've
me
seen,
dizzy.
This is
You-
the plan,
you-
by the way. There are
Ay, ay,
multiple.
ay.
You have view to the street before you be on the sidewalk.
So you're
Yes.
saying that there's enough of a, when you come to the top, you're able to stop and look
Yes.
right and
Yes.
left.
Yes.
But
it
the
is.
question, I think the question that was brought up before you hit the sidewalk, if you have to accelerate, it's before you hit the sidewalk, are you able to stop?
Yes,
Oh, yes,
yes, yes. Mhm.
yes.
Good. That's a better
Boy,
view.
that's a narrow driveway.
So the only reason why I bring that up is I believe that's the intent of the code, was to control the slope for those type of, those situations when you're approaching into the right of way. In certain situations, if there is enough of a view to be able to see, you know, when you have to move to the, when you're approaching the sidewalk, then it's a consideration for the board to say it's sufficient to grant it. But I think when you're weighing in to grant the variance, you just have to take into consideration if there's obstructions to the view when you approach.
Okay.
In this
So,
case, it may not be, but, you know, that's the intent of the code.
Joe, can I just double check the variance is it 4.8%
No, it would be
or
at,
is it 7?
it's 7.43%. It goes at the, what the
Okay,
most, that's, at that point, that's where they determined on the survey where the biggest slope is.
all right, so 7.43,
I believe it's like 7.43, something.
right, okay. Right, so it should be, and it's actually 17.43 is, so that's the biggest, and that's what okay, that makes sense, all right. I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, are there any other questions from the board? Okay, if there are no other questions from the board, then I may entertain a motion to open the public hearing
So moved.
for 8991 State Street.
So moved.
Second, Kyle. George, you can jump in whenever you want.
You gotta
Um,
take yourself off mute, George.
If there's no objection, then we will open the public hearing by unanimous consent. Okay, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone to speak on this, Jaime, in the audience?
Going once, going twice. Nope, nobody.
Okay, then may I entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Kyle.
Second, Bob.
And by unanimous consent, if there's no objection, the public hearing is now closed. Okay, then I guess we would go through the area variance testing for this.
So, Marlene, you open and close the public hearing for 89 to 91. Do you also want to open and close the public hearing for 93? And then you,
Yes, we can. I don't know if Mr. Salinas was on to speak, if you wanted to speak.
He's here, but I can't seem to get him in. The problem is the same for both properties.
Okay. So, so then I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing for 93 State Street.
So moved, Bob.
Second, Kyle.
I don't know if there's anyone to speak on the 93 State Street, ZBA 08-2022.
Is Mr. Salinas raising his hand?
No, it's not.
Okay, if there is no one to speak, may I have entertain a motion to close the public hearing for?
Wait, Mr. Salinas
93.
is now raising his hand. And now he's lowering his hand.
And you
Okay.
can't let him in?
I will, I'm gonna allow him to talk because he doesn't seem to be able to get promoted for some reason.
Okay.
Mr. Salinas, if you could take yourself off mute. Yeah, you're off mute now. You can speak.
Yeah. Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Hi, Jorge.
I'm Mr. Salinas.
Yeah, it's here.
Did you have a comment you wanted to provide?
Yeah, this is the speaker, this is the Miss Patricia, please. This I the speaker is the my Miss Patricia.
Yes, Ms. Patricia spoke already. So do you have anything else to add?
Yeah. Give me one second, please.
Ok, señor, ¿quieres decir algo al borde o estás todo de acuerdo de lo que dijeron a la señora Beresueta?
No, está bien, lo que ella dijo está bien.
Está bien. Okay, he said that he said it's all good. He's good with what Ms. Beresueta said.
Great.
Okay.
Está bien.
Okay, so may I entertain a motion to close the public hearing for ZBA 08-2022?
So moved, Kyle.
Second, Bob.
If there's no objection, the public hearing for 93 State Street is now closed. So as we go through the area variance test, I believe that they will apply for both, or do we have to? Yes, okay, so they will apply. Okay.
It's the same, right?
It's a shared, yep,
And then you can take two separate motions.
okay. So for ZBA 07-2022 and ZBA 08-2022, let us go through the area variance testing.
Perfect. Okay. Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of these area variances.
I don't think so.
No, it's pre-existing and it's a steep slope on many of those driveways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The benefit sought by the applicants can be achieved by some method feasible for them to pursue other than these area variances.
No, that's the only choice. That's the driveway.
I agree with Bob, not without an extremely expensive raising of the back lot. So I agree, no.
A lot of fill.
Mm-hmm. The requested area variances are substantial.
Yes.
It is 7.3% of the slope difference, but in looking at the property, it sounds substantial, but in looking at the slope of the driveway and the actual length of the driveway, I don't believe it's as substantial as it is deemed on paper.
I agree with Marlene.
So the impacts are not going to be substantial.
The impacts are not substantial. No.
Okay. The proposed variances will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
The drainage issue is taken care of by the pervious surface of the gravel at the bottom versus asphalt. So I would say no.
I agree with Kyle.
And as this is an existing condition, it also alleviates some of the parking issues on that street. So it actually, alleviates the parking between two houses. And I think that that's a good way to help with the, with the overall neighborhood.
And you all also considered, the safety issue, which I think is important of, fact that there's sight lines and all that. So I think that would go to this condition too, to be fair.
Yeah, so So, yeah, so we did discuss with the applicant and the owners of the property that there is sufficient sightline at the top of the driveway for them to be able to not only see the sidewalk, but the oncoming traffic into the street.
Yes.
And the last condition is whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
I
Nope.
don't think so.
I
They
don't
didn't
think
build
so.
those houses so close together. That's not their fault.
And it's not that the houses are close together. I think it's just the topography of the area, and
Yeah.
they didn't create that.
Nope.
All right. That's that.
So we have to do
Okay.
a separate motion for each of the
Yeah.
properties?
Yeah.
Yes, because they're two separate
Yes.
items.
Okey-doke.
So may I have a motion for ZBA 07-2022 first?
So moved, Kyle?
Second by Bob.
Okay,
Are you putting a condition for the mirrors, or was that just
No.
an idea?
Based
no,
on,
that was just an idea.
yeah,
Okay.
based on the view that we saw from the front, the distance between the end of the houses and the property line and the street is enough.
Is enough,
right.
yeah.
Got it. Just checking.
Thank
All right. So you had motion by Kyle, second by Bob. Roll call is Marlene.
Aye.
I don't think George is there. I'm sorry, George. Kyle Beckley
Aye.
and Bob Dario.
Aye.
3-0.
Okay.
3-0-1.
Motion carried.
Mhm.
301, yes. Motion carried for ZBA 07-2022, 8991 State Street, on to ZBA 08-2022, 93 State Street. And again, it's an adjoining driveway, so may I have a motion?
So moved, Bob.
Second, Kyle?
All right, Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
Kyle Beckley,
Aye.
Bob Dario.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion carried. So Mr. Salinas and Mr. and Mrs. and I don't want to, I'm just going to say Mr. and Mrs. B.
Better sleep.
Have a good evening. And you're okay. So thank you. Everything has gone through.
Thank you
All right,
very
hold up.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night, thank you.
Good night. Oh, on to continuing business of the board. I believe 130 ZBA 21-2021 has been adjourned.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I need a motion to adjourn it till the next month?
No, the
No.
applicant requested an adjournment.
Okay. So then ZBA 23-2021, 34 State Street, has that been adjourned or removed from the?
I think that they need to take an affirmative action, removing it from the agenda due to the fact that it has, they've received their permit. And so the basis of their, their initial request was that the zoning board override the building department's decision to not grant or to revoke the permit, and the permit has since been reinstated. So
Right. Yeah, so the applicant had specifically requested that you take affirmative action to direct the building inspector to reissue the permit. I'm reading from
Mhm.
their papers.
But that's
So,
already been done, right?
yeah, and we had requested that this applicant actually affirmatively withdraw their papers, but they requested an adjournment instead, just so you're fully aware. So hence
Okay.
why they're appearing on the adjourned matters. But we spoke with Corp Counsel, and I also feel that, this matter is moot, so you could take affirmative action and vote to remove it from the agenda, if you so feel.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it'll just be maintained on the agenda until.
So-
If this happens again, the conditions would be different. So the 2021 doesn't matter regardless. So,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I would.
So I
support
would,
what we
I
just-
would entertain that we remove this from the agenda, pending the fact that they have a current building permit that was issued recently. So,
Remove this from the agenda as the situation is now moot.
Okay.
Second, Kyle.
All right.
Um,
You want to take a roll call?
mhm.
All right.
Yes.
Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
Kyle Beckley,
Aye.
and Bob Dario.
Aye.
Hold on.
What's the matter?
Bob Dario recused on this project earlier in the
Oh, that's
in
right.
the review. I don't think you can take a vote on this.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
I'm
Only have
so
two members.
sorry.
Oh,
I'm
wait a
so
That's right.
sorry.
So we can't.
Unrecused
So we
yourself?
will. So
No, you can't.
so we can't do anything with this tonight. So
Sorry.
and
But
I
there's
don't.
enough
'Cause I
of us
don't.
here who know what's going on. We can maybe approach that next month.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. I forgot.
apologize. I forgot.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking, and I don't think George is with us, so he can't vote on this. Okay.
All right. I apologize. And thank you, Jaime, for that catch.
Good catch.
Yes. Okay. 4 State Street, ZBA 27/2021. Is there
We're just waiting
anything
on
with that?
we're just waiting on submission of their materials. They haven't submitted any new materials in order
Okay,
to get back
so
on. So that's kind of where we are.
so can I have George? Are you here?
George, are you here? Georgie.
He said yes, I think.
I don't feel comfortable taking a vote on that with this.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but it's very faint, George.
Okay.
Marlene, I think we should just
No.
leave it for now.
No. So on the 4 State Street, may I have a motion to adjourn till the March meeting?
April meeting.
Yeah, April meeting. I'm sorry, I'm a month behind.
So moved.
Second, Kyle.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
Kyle Beckley,
Because I'm
And Bob
very
Dario.
old.
all right.
I'm sorry, George.
George, can you say aye? Ow.
Okay.
Next
think
month
he
we'll be
said
in
I-
person, so we won't have these technical issues.
Thanks, Jaime. Okay. I believe Kyle. Kyle, did you say aye?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So motion carried to adjourn 4 State Street until the April meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Okay, I did hear that. If there's nothing else, I heard that we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Bob.
Second, Kyle.
All in favor, aye, or no
Aye.
objections? Okay, motion to adjourn carried forward. If there's nothing else, then I guess we are done. I'm sorry, there's a James Bennett hanging out. Do we know why?
He's just an attendee.
Okay.
He has his hand raised.
Oh,
So
you just adjourned the meeting. That's that.
I know.
Um,
Okay.
I don't
Sorry,
know,
Mr. Bennett.
you can.
So
So he's
long.
not going to be a part of the official record of the meeting. I'm going to stop recording now. But you can
Right.
certainly allow him
Jaime,
No.
Jaime, the meeting is adjourned. I would not go down this road.
Dude,
Okay. All right.
I know.
Okay.
I'm out.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good night. I'll see you
Good
next
night,
month.
everyone.
Good night.
Night.